Digging by Seamus Heaney. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean, rasping sound when the spade sinks into the gravelly ground. My father digging. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. The coarse boot nestled on the lug. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep, to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God! The old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Turner's Bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf, digging. The cold smell of potato mould, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it. Welcome. The poem Digging was the first poem in the first collection of Heaney's published poems called Death of a Naturalist. It was written in 1964 and published in 1966. It is a hugely significant poem for Heaney. In 1974, he wrote in his lecture notes, "Digging was the first poem I wrote where I thought my feelings had got into my words." Digging allowed him to believe for the first time that he might actually be a poet. The poem explores his developing consciousness of his identity, a sense of himself as a poet. Although Heaney is a modern poet, his poem harkens back to a pre-modern world, the world of William Wordsworth. Like Ted Hughes and Robert Frost, he creates poetry out of his surroundings. The poem Digging goes beyond this to contemplate his identity in relation to his family and his culture. The poem begins with the image of a pen resting in the hand, snug as a gun. Heaney claimed that the simile, snug as a gun, was responding to the sound of the words snug and gun, and was intended to convey the comfortable fit of a pen in the hand. It is made for this, as a gun is made to fit the hand comfortably. The poem is an example of free verse. It has varying lengths of stanzas. The short first stanza focuses our attention closely on the image of a pen, which assumes a weighty symbolic significance in conveying the poet's personal identity as the poem continues. Stanza 2 sets the scene as the poet is up in his room, where he is arrested by a clean, rasping sound, a rough, grating sound of his father digging down below when the spade sinks into the gravelly ground. The alliteration, onomatopoeia, and rhyme vividly recreates the sounds of rural Ireland and introduces the second symbol of identity in the poem, the spade. From his bedroom, he looks out of the window and, in jammed lines, sweep the reader away into a memory of his father 20 years earlier. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. In this way, the reader is transported to a specific memory of Heaney's father, 20 years away. His rhythmical movements digging up the potato plants and scattering the new potatoes that were picked up by the children walking behind him, loving their cool hardness in our hands. The image created is literally of a son walking in the footsteps of his father. The short stanza that follows highlights Heaney's awareness of and recognition of the generations of potato farmers that had gone before him in his family, and the unstinting admiration he felt for both his father and his grandfather. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. The second line carries him even further back in time, as a memory of his grandfather begins to take shape in his mind. His pride in his grandfather is evident, as he relays, "My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Turner's Bog." As a child, he recalls carrying him milk in a bottle corked sloppily with paper. His grandfather only pauses for a moment. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf. His grandfather's dedication and energy as he resumes his work, as well as his meticulous precision as he trims and cuts the rectangles, stays with him. The two central images of identity, the spade and the pen, begin to merge as his grandfather heaves the sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf. The single word digging echoes the title of the poem and sums up the allusions to digging that are echoed throughout the poem. The notion of digging is mentioned and relentlessly pursued in every stanza of the poem, and it is crystallized in the title. This single word digging hints at the metaphorical implications that unfold as the poem begins to take shape. We experience Heaney's poem through our senses, from the sharp image of a pen resting comfortably in one's hand at the start of the poem, to the rasping sound when the spade sinks into the gravelly ground. From his father's straining rump, moving fluidly from present to past, stooping in rhythm through the potato drills. From the image of the children walking in his father's footsteps to pick up the new potatoes he has gathered, loving their cool hardness in our hands, to the cold smell of potato mold and the squelch and slap of soggy peat. We experience the island of Heaney's father and grandfather. In a marvelously evocative line, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. Both the literal cutting of roots in the ground in the process of digging and Heaney's regret at the inevitable separation from his roots is suggested in the realization that awakens in his head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. In a neat but powerful circular structure, the concluding stanza echoes the opening stanza. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. But he adds the potent announcement to the world of his intention, his sense of purpose. I'll dig with it. This neatly brings together the literal and metaphoric meaning of digging. It also establishes the poet's own identity within his family. He determines to dig with his pen. The close connection between the two symbols, the pen and the spade, indicates that he values everything he has learned from his father and grandfather. Dedication, strength, the value of hard work and of taking a pride in your work, the value of rhythm and of developing skills with precision. This is what he wants to do in his writing. In an interview on a later collection of poems, Human Chain, Nobel Prize-winning poet Seamus Heaney digs into the past, yet acknowledging to the end of his life the importance for him of his early poem Digging, saying, "When it comes alive, when you feel it is your own utterance, then you're in business." He described this poem as a life-changing moment and the beginning of a life journey into the wideness of language. Please remember to click the bell below and subscribe, and visit me at my website formuse.org.